This is a podcast about one woman's mission to help entrepreneurs and business owners write better business books. Each week, we tackle your writing excuses, because there are excuses too, and help you beat the blank page of doom so that you can write the book that'll grow your life and your business. Now here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I am Vicky Quinn Fraser, and this week I am talking to Team Moxie member and A-list copywriter, Kim Krause Schwalm. I've known Kim for years. She has been on the podcast before, and she has come to our Breaking Bread Mastermind in Portugal, which was a lot of fun. And she has been a member of Team Moxie for about a month. So I thought, let's get Kim back on the show to talk about not just what she's doing now, but also about her personal creative writing projects, which are a world away from what she's spent most of her career doing. So if you would like to grab yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and listen to Kim and I talk about copywriting, copy mentoring, how she mentors young up-and-coming copywriters to be as good as they can be. And then we segue wildly into talking about creative writing and personal projects, and we have a lot of fun. Also, listen out for the mishearing and the subsequent shrieking of laughter. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode, and please welcome Kim. Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast again for the second time. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so good to be here. I feel like it's been an eternity.
I know it has been quite a long time. And also I love how I start these things, because we've literally just been laughing before we press record about our poor use of English. So we're going to try and do better now that the recording is on.
Yes, we will. Proper English only.
Proper English only. We'll talk good. Oh
no.
So do you want to just I've given you a quick introduction at the beginning of this podcast, but do you want to just tell the listeners what it is that you do, Ms. A-list copywriter Kim Krause Schwalm, please?
Oh, wow. You pronounced my name correctly. That's always a plus. So I'm mostly these days, I do have my hand in copywriting, but much less than over the last 22 years as a freelance copywriter. God, that seems like a long time. So I've been the last 5 years or so now, I've been starting to send out emails and a popular e-letter called Copy Insiders, and
which
also promo breakdowns, what's in Kim's mailbox, to an ever-growing list of people, which your listeners will have a chance to join if they would like. And it is really fun because, when you write for clients, you have to stay within the lines, right? Color within the lines. You have to, I can just say whatever the heck I want. Sometimes it's a little controversial. It doesn't matter. It's just my opinion, my teachings, my experience. It's my life, right? And but what's really gratifying is sharing my expertise with people. And so I'm doing that via various courses that I've created. I also have a mentoring program that happens, it's now in its third year, where I have one group that starts at the beginning and goes through the end with me for, a period of time. And so, so that's probably taking up at least 80% of my time. And the rest of the time is maybe copy chiefing projects or just keeping some of my controls running with updates.
Yeah. Cool. I'm going to come back and ask you about that in a moment, obviously, but I'm just going to jump on something that you just said and ask you a follow-up question, because one of the things that I really like about your emails, and if you are not on Kim's email list, then we'll give you the address at the end and you should totally join it because her emails are super. But one of the things I really like about your emails and how you write is, like you said that sometimes it's quite controversial, and it is. I like the way that you are just like, this is my opinion and this is who I am. And, it seems to me like I don't care what anyone else thinks of me. So how true is, do you? How easy do you find it to kind of be like, you know what, I've got this thing to say and I'm going to damn well say it?
I think the only parameter or boundary that I have that kind of hems me in a little is I just know everybody pretty much, in the industry. And I'm not one of those people that wants to attack somebody or, like my good friend Daniel Throssell, like he loves to create all sorts of controversy and run with things and declare war. And that's just not me. And I don't want to, it's like, I'm more like, why can't we all just get along? I'm going to have different approaches, different opinions. An email I sent yesterday, for example, he kind of read it as, oh, you're going after this one guy. And it's like, no, I'm not going after him. I just have a different opinion, based on my experience. But I don't want to put that down. I respect others' opinions or approaches too. So I'd say, and that's just kind of more my personality. I'm not one of those people just for amusement wants to stir things up. Like, I'm married to a guy who's kind of like that. You've met him and he's a lot of fun, some people love that. I'm just like, there's enough conflict in life already. I don't need to create more.
Yeah. And I love that, because it's like you can say your piece without, like you say, without going after people and without attacking people.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you ever, because like I know that one of the things that I find really difficult, and I know a lot of female writers find, is like, oh, if I put my opinion out, it's like it's going to offend people and everyone's going to hate me. Is that something that's ever bothered you?
Doesn't really bother me. And I feel like I have to constantly coach women, to stop being so freaking nice. In fact, I even said that on stage. I was at Copy Accelerator and I was on a Q&A panel with Marcella Allison and Kevin Rogers. And I literally said that. In fact, I got so many laughs in the audience from men and women, because I said, women, you female copywriters need to stop being so nice. I said, I had to learn how to be more nice. Which is another improper use of the English language. But it was just, I got so much laughter, but it is kind of true. I mean, I've always been just kind of direct and blunt, Yeah. I remember once 14 years old wanting to eat dinner. And I was like, Mom, when's dinner going to be ready? She's like, oh, I'm just waiting for Billy's friend to leave. And I'm like, oh. And I go into Billy's room. I'm like, hey, Johnny, you got to go home. We're going to eat dinner. And I come back. I'm like, okay, Mom, let's eat. Like, I handled it. Like, what are we worried about upsetting some 12-year-old boy? Just send him home so we can eat.
And I love that. And it's kind of got me thinking as well, because there's kind of a lot of what I think is poor advice about kind of telling women, oh, you've got to be more like a man. And it's like, that's not what it's about at all. It's just that we don't need to behave in a way that like society says, oh, women have to be nice. It's like, actually, no, we can just be ourselves.
Worried. Like believe me, there's a lot worse things that can happen in life than somebody doesn't like you or they're offended or.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, cool. So thank you for answering that question. Now I would like to know more about how you decided to get into, because I know that for so long you're an A-list you're a copywriter and that was what you did. And that was, you wrote for clients. How did you get into the mentoring side of things? What made you want to do that?
Well, it's one of those things that just started to happen naturally, where people would reach out and say, hey, would you be willing to look at my copy or do some coaching? So I was doing it a little bit informally, for a few years. And then, and then I decided to try a little test pilot with a small group of 6 people. And that went on for 5 or 6 months. And that was really kind of cool. And then I decided to formalize it and created my Fast Track to A-List program. And then, like I said, it's a small group, no more than 15 copywriters, and everybody starts at the same time and ends at the same time. And it's just this great, kind of camaraderie that develops within the group. I mean, I didn't want to have one of these giant group call things where people are coming in and out of the program. It's we start at the same time, we end at the same time, and then I get the rest of the year off, which is nice. I mean, as far as that, so So it's been really gratifying to just see how people grow, and I bring them in, certain copywriters in on certain opportunities, depending on, where they're at and their interest. And it's just been really great to coach them into earning more and get, be obviously capable of earning much more with their career.
That sounds awesome. And it sounds like it's, and I don't know if I've got this right or not, but it sounds like it's a combination of kind of copy mentoring and actually helping people become better writers, and also mindset stuff as well. Is that
there's probably some mindset for sure. A lot of it's just running your business, right? I mean, the last group call a week and a half ago, I was going to cover it later in the program, but I just was getting ticked off at some of the low prices I was seeing some people accepting. And I'm like, okay, that's it. We're doing a whole thing just on client pricing, bring your fee schedules. We're going to go through it. And people are just and it's funny because almost consistently I see, this is not to bash men, but I mean, some men are way underpricing, but sometimes the guys are much more likely to just say, oh, I'm just going to charge $10K for that, and the woman who may have 2 or 3 more years experience or control, promos under her belt will be like, I don't know, can I charge 5? It's like, no. So, and that's another thing I said in that Q&A that I mentioned is like, I said, if you're a woman, probably need to add at least 25% to any quote you send out. Just come up with your quote and just add another 25%. I mean,
to have the confidence of a man, right?
Probably underpricing by that much.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder what it must be like to walk through the world as a kind of middle-class white dude and just have that like confidence and that like this belief that the whole world is there for you. And it must be.
I definitely feel like the younger generation of men are much, much more aware of that kind of privilege.
That's good.
And I mean, for sure, like the Gen Z folks, I have 2 children, a son and a daughter, in that group. And for sure, I mean, women have a lot of power, I think, and it's interesting. But yeah, no, the more established, the older you get, and maybe as they get older, that'll start to change too, because the world is still, very skewed in many ways.
Yeah, still needs tweaking a little bit.
Absolutely.
It's really cool to hear that you're going through copywriters' fee schedules though, because, and this goes for like all copywriters, because I remember when I used to be a copywriter, when I first started out, it's like, how do you price your stuff? It's like, how do you even do that? So I can imagine that's an incredibly valuable part of the coaching, the mentoring that you're doing.
It is, I mean, if anything, I risk telling people to charge a little too much, but I always say, go with your comfort zone. I mean, I've been charging top dollar for, many, many years. So I understand things are very competitive, with more copywriters than ever before. But if you've got the goods, you deserve to charge top dollar, and people will form their perception of you based on what price you put out there. If you put out too low, they're just going to think you must not be very good, or it'll just start a dysfunctional relationship where they constantly, don't respect boundaries and they don't value you, et cetera. So it's much better to just start from a place of, hey, you better freaking respect me,
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not just fees, it's everything. It's your contract, your agreements, your process for how you work, et cetera, and, even if it's your first project, you can put yourself out there as if you've done this a dozen times before, at least, and, just come across like a true professional that won't tolerate being pushed around.
Yeah. And do you know what the thing, because I never used to have contracts or anything. And then I started to adult my business a little bit. And it's apart from all of the kind of practical stuff, I noticed that it made me feel more confident as well to have that contract and stuff in place. It's like, oh, actually, this is a proper thing that I'm doing now instead of, I'm not playing at it or whatever. Does that make sense? Have you found that that's made a difference?
And I kind of evolved like that too. I mean, I was mostly working with fairly, reputable clients, for many years. And, that they kind of worked with a lot of copywriters. So they knew the drill basically.
Yeah.
Right. And then as I started to work with, a wider range of clients, eventually I had one of these circumstances where I'm just like, oh crap, I think I need a contract, like a better contract than this tiny little thing, they call it a contract. So that's when I nailed it all down, and, but it only takes one of those instances where you're just like, oh crap, if only I had something like this all spelled out in advance. It's like, for example, and I can count on less than one hand, how many times a project's been killed by a client before it's completed. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the copy, but they have a change of plans or whatever. And, it's so much better to spell that out in advance while you're still in love with each other, before you're in that like romance period before you start with the project. And, we just need to nail these things down in advance. It's just like a prenuptial agreement. It's like, if we split up, you don't want to do that after the fighting and the acrimony starts. And then you're like, okay, I get half the house or whatever, So it's much better to spell it all out while you're still in love.
Yeah. I love that. I love that analogy as well. That's really cool. Okay, so speaking of kind of grown-up businesses and stuff, because I know that you've been working on your brand, building a brand and a business. How's that been going?
Oh, that's been so fun, so exciting. I worked with Hillary Weiss. She's amazing. I know you probably know her, Hillary Weiss Presswood, I think is her
Yeah.
full name. And I went through her whole Power Platform program. It was just, personal coaching one-on-one, just, great input. It really helped me kind of just look at my whole business. I put under the microscope, figure out what felt more authentic and truly me. And it was great. And then we even did the photo shoot together, et cetera. And now I have someone who's helping me with all the social media and just kind of bringing that out to the world. And I have a new website. So yeah, that was a huge amount of my focus for several months, but it was really fun. And I highly recommend it because now I just feel like, I was kind of going with this branding, like A-list copywriting success or whatever. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of A-list copywriters now that are out there sharing their knowledge and teaching. So kind of what is it that makes me different and, is more, like I said, authentic to my personality. So,
yeah. So what did you find from that then? What is the Kim magic?
Well, I teach people how to get dangerously good at copywriting and
that's so cool.
Managing clients, just like what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And also having that bigger picture perspective that you bring, as a copywriter, in terms of understanding marketing and how your copy fits into the bigger picture, and these are all the things that take you to a higher level of not just producing higher quality copy and getting higher fees and working with higher quality clients, but, just bringing more to the table and being seen as more of an advisor versus an order taker.
Yeah, I love that kind of tagline. Get dangerously good. I think that's very cool. And if you haven't already, go and look at Kim's website because the photo shoot looked like so much fun, and the photos are so fabulous.
Oh yeah, it was great. It's getdangerouslygood.com, and of course there you can get I have a free checklist that people get. It's like really 5 checklists. When you become a Copy Insider, which is free to join.
It is free to join, and we'll shout that out again at the end. But before, because I'm getting towards the end, which is sad, but we still have more to talk about. I know because
there's so much more.
Because I know that part of the reason you were transitioning was to give yourself a little bit more time to work on your personal projects. So can you tell us a bit about those?
Oh my goodness. I have so many personal projects that have been running around my brain for the last 5 years. And I kept thinking, I'm going to ease out of copywriting and I'm going to have my own list and products. And then I'll have all this free time, right, to work on my thing. But it's like, no, I actually got busier. And then I just realized, I can't do copywriting projects and do this and get to what I want to get to. So that's part of the reason of the phasing out and doing less of that. So, but one of the big game-changing things was, and this is not just meant as a pitch, but it was joining your Power Hour. It was like 4 weeks now, I think. And I'm making progress on this one screenplay that I've had in my head for 4 or 5 years. And it's just been an amazing experience. It gets me in front of my computer at an early hour where I normally would just be lounging, reading the paper and getting ready to go to work. And it's like, you know what, just crawl out of bed, grab your coffee and get to work, right? And it's been working great for me. So I do have that one screenplay. I have another screenplay I'd like to write after that. And I have 2 drafts of children's books that I've written. Plus I have another whole series that I want to write based on stories that my grandfather used to tell my mother when he'd come back from the jungles of Vietnam.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
So I have a lot of family history, a lot of family stories that I'm tapping into, especially with this first screenplay. And and I'm a total newbie. I'm a total newbie when it comes to this. So I recognize that. But
that's an exciting way to do it.
For it, and I'm just following what I tell other copywriters, study other scripts, right? I've been looking for similar scripts. I've been studying how are they organized? How do they open up? What's, the dialogue like? How do they do that? Right. Yeah. This is what I did 22 years ago when I became a freelance copywriter, and I knew I wanted to break into long form where I could make royalties, right? It took a few years to do that at least. And I still amass like these huge files of swipes, but I would just study these promos like, okay, how did they do this? How did that, dissect, analyze, break apart? And so I'm kind of just approaching this like I was a copywriting newbie.
So how are you finding screenwriting to be like a totally new way of writing?
It feels very new. And I'm sure I'm doing a lot of things wrong. But the thing is, I could sit there with my book, which I still haven't really gone through. I've got books, I've got courses I've signed up for that it's like I could just spend months mired in that, or I could just freaking jump in.
Yeah.
and just get some practice, figure it out as I go along. That's kind of what I did. There were no copywriting courses like in this kind of direct response niche when I was starting out. I mean, I did read the classic book, Scientific Advertising, and it was like so eye-opening. I'm like, oh, wait, everything I've done in marketing so far, this totally makes sense. And I read it once a year, every year, and my mentees do too. But I didn't go through all sorts of courses. I mean, the courses you can get today, I mean, like I share things, there's other people sharing things, they can be extraordinarily helpful. But I guess my point is you want to learn, but you also have to apply. And if you don't practice every day, if you don't practice writing copy every day, or if I'm not writing a little bit of screenplay or outline or something every day, I'm just going to sit there and never move forward. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is possibly like, I'm going to pull that little knowledge nugget out because and this is why I set up, the power hours, because it's like, you have to write a little bit every day if you want to get better at whatever it is that you're doing.
I'm like, oh, I'm going to check my, no, you're not.
No,
you're not going to do that. You're working on your screenplay. All right.
I'm just gonna clarify that. Like at the beginning of the week, I'm like, Kim, do you want me to yell at you if you're not working on your screenplay?
No, you're nice about it. I need you to be more of a bitch. No, I'm just kidding.
I can totally be more of a bitch. That's fine.
I'm just kidding. No, I like, but you're like that little voice in the, it's like you're on my shoulder saying, Kim, don't you think you should?
Are you doing what you want to be doing? Are you?
What's your goal for doing this? What's your why?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited that you're working on a screenplay and children's books. That's very cool because we definitely haven't had anyone working on a screenplay before. So, and it's, I just guess, I don't know. I mean, are you ready to talk about what it's about yet, or is that going to be for later?
I think I'm not going to talk about it yet. I'll talk about it later. I'm going to run it by actually a potential coach this afternoon and just make sure it's not complete rubbish, as you British like to say. Because I could totally change it. Who knows? But no, but yeah, it's. I think it's gonna be early, awesome. And I guarantee you're gonna get totally sick of hearing about it.
Oh, I won't.
Be like, oh my God, you're still working on this thing.
Well, I'm very excited about it, and I'm also really looking forward to some of the children's stories that are based on what your granddad came back with, because that sounds fascinating.
Which stories? I thought you said dildo.
What? No. Children.
What kind of stories?
Children's stories.
Oh, children's.
That's the opposite.
Sometimes I do struggle with accents. Yours is very clear, but the children's stories. Yeah. So my grandfather, he would go help manage these rubber plantations, and they produced all this rubber for the big tire companies like Goodyear, Goodrich, etc. And so he'd be out there, for a month or two at least at a time. And then he'd come home and, my mom was the youngest of 10 children. Wow. And he'd get home and all 10 children would gather around and say, Daddy, tell us the stories. And he had this a whole series of them based on this majestic female elephant who would go into the villages, and there was like the lion village and the tiger village, all these different villages, and there was always some kind of conflict. Here we are back to conflict, that she kind of helped resolve. And so my mom remembers some of the characters, but not too much of the stories. And it's sad that we've been talking about doing this for like 10 years, and now she's declining, and I just still haven't gotten to it. So that's definitely, I'm torn. Like that's like my next. And then the other two drafts of children's books were just. I still know I need to take them to that next level, but they were both based on dogs that I witnessed on various vacations back in, 2018 and 2019. And I was just very intrigued by these dogs and decided to write an entire children's book about them.
Love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So at some point you're going to come back and talk about the screenplay and the children's books. But for now, we are running out of time. So I have some rapid fire interview questions that I'm going to fire at you.
This is why I have my coffee. Oh, sip.
Right. Okay. Ready? Let's do this. Okay. So what are you reading right now?
Oh, I'm reading a book called The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd. But I've mostly been planning my trip to France coming up. So I've been kind of neglecting my reading.
That sounds cool. What is a favorite book? I won't say the favorite book because for me it changes with my mood, but what is a favorite book of yours?
Oh my gosh. I really liked this book, and I forget the name of the author, but it's called The Immortalist. And it's not one of these books that's as well known, And I just loved it because it was like 4 different sibling stories and kind of what happened after this one momentous event. And it kind of takes you back kind of a little bit in history, like more modern history, like the last few decades. But each story of its own was just very unique and intriguing. And I don't know, I just found that interesting. But no, I have so many books that I love. I'm trying to figure out what this book is. The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd was a book I could not put down a year or 2 ago. And it was kind of surprising to me because it wasn't, it seems on the surface more like a religious story, but it's not at all. But it's basically it's kind of a mostly made up story, but based on, events of the wife of Jesus. And it's such an empowering story. I mean, it's such a great story of female friendship and empowerment and love. And
that sounds amazing.
It just is an incredible story. I mean,
I'm gonna grab myself a copy of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what is a favorite film of yours?
Oh my goodness. Probably This Must Be the Place by Talking Heads.
Okay. Interesting. That's not what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting you to say. Cool. And what is the last thing you binge watched?
Still finishing up, really close to finishing up The Sopranos.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I've
Don't tell me anything that happens.
I've never seen it. Never seen any of them.
It's really, I mean, we're at the point, though, I think we're both really ready, my husband and I, to finish it just because, I mean, it's so dark at times, and you fall in love with the characters, but then you realize you're falling in love with people who are basically murderers and they do really terrible things for a living, because it's about the mafia, right? So, but yeah, it's interesting, like the conflict you feel, like the humanizing and you relate to the stories, the characters, but they also have this horrible capacity,
Yeah, I totally get that. Okay, and your favorite place?
Oh, probably Italy.
Nice. Love Italy. And what are you thankful for right now?
I'm just grateful for good health. I mean, I'm coming up on a milestone birthday and I'm in pretty darn good health and I try to take care of myself. And, I had COVID and it was a nothing burger because I was mostly because I'm all vaccinated. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I think you just get to a certain age where you start to see people passing away and sometimes untimely, right? And you just realize, I got to get going with the screenplay. I got to go to those places I want to go. I've got to just do the things, and just enjoy and appreciate every day. I know it sounds kind of whatever, but I really do feel that way. Well, I've had a lot of stressful stuff going on with my mom and this and that, her health the last several months. I think I generally have an optimistic view on life. And I mean, that's not to say I don't get down from time to time, but I think that's a real strength. I think I just have a real optimism about things. And I'm grateful for that too.
Oh, nice. I like that answer. And what are you most proud of?
Raising 2 amazing kids.
Oh,
and I mean that from the standpoint of not even their accomplishments, because they're pretty young. They haven't had a lot of accomplishments yet, but they're just really good human beings. Like they're just good. Like the way they treat people. When I observe how my son will just treat people, like he's so polite and respectful, and my daughter too. And they're just good kids. Like I had to spend a whole 10 or 12 hour day a few weeks ago cleaning out my mom's condo, and they both drove to come help. It's like a good 2-hour round trip, and without complaint just worked and just smartly were able to just handle things without a lot of direction. And I just, all the way home, I drove and I just like, my heart is full. Just have good kids. And it's like, that is my biggest thing that I feel proud of, that my husband and I, we didn't do everything right, but we definitely did something right. So.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And after a deep question, a shallow question, what's on your bedside table?
Oh, well, my book that I've barely read lately, the one I just started, I always have like lavender essential oil to help me sleep, or I even have this cream, it's lavender with melatonin in it. I have an old-fashioned clock that I can look at, so I don't always have to lift my phone to see what time it is and then go off down a rabbit hole. So that's pretty much what's on there. And a big glass of water.
Yeah, always a glass of water. Awesome. And finally, where can we find out more about you?
Well, like I said, you can go to getdangerouslygood.com, or you can type my full name, Kim Schwalm, KIMSCHWALM.com, which almost sounds like a meditation. Or you can go to copyinsiders.com if you just want the shortcut. But I say go to the full website and get the full experience.
Yeah, getdangerouslygood.com. That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Kim, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been an absolute delight talking to you, as always.
It's been great to be here, Vicky.
And I feel like he'll be like, well, I'll see you tomorrow anyway. But
yeah, and I really hope we get to see each other again in person. That's
definitely.
He was in Portugal, and that was amazing. So we've got to go. Maybe I might be in the UK in March next year.
Oh, give me a shout. That would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Would love that.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kim, for a fabulous interview. As it's always a pleasure talking to Kim. She's always good for a giggle. And make sure that you go check out her website at getdangerouslygood.com, where you can find out all about what she does and join her email list, which you should absolutely do, the Copy Insider emails. They're really great, really good insight into how good copy is written and made. And also, Kim is a cracking storyteller. So go have a sign up and enjoy. You can also get her copywriting checklist. Even if you're not a copywriter, this is really helpful if you write your own copy, and a load more good stuff from her as well. And if you would like to join Kim in the Team Moxie Power Hour, we would love to have you. You can try us out for just £1.20 for a week if you go to moxiebooks.co.uk/power hour. Joe will be back with me next week. All that is left for me to say is thank you so much to Podfly, as always. Thank you to Harriet for doing the gubbins that makes this show look great and get out to the world. And thank you to you, dear listener, as always, for tuning in and listening. And get in touch if you have a story that you would like to share. If you have any questions, we would love to have your questions about writing, books, publishing, anything like that. Please send your questions in. We will answer them on the show. And please go subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Subscribe. It helps us climb the rankings. And please leave us a review. We would love to know what you think of the show. It will help more people find us. And if you would like to share it, you can send them to moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast. We'll be back same time next week. Ta-ta.
Thanks for listening. You can find links and show notes on the website at moxiebooks.co.uk/podcast, where you can also sign up for the best daily emails in the multiverse and find loads of free resources to help you write your book. We'll be back the same time next week with more tales from the book writing trenches and the latest on what the tiny sheeps have been up to.